My favourite archetype of athlete is the egotistical maniac. There's a lot of them across many different sports, from boxing to MMA to football to NFL to basketball to golf. Some of the best players are egomaniacs. So let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about it in football. In football, we see one of the greatest players of all time is recognized. I'm not going to call him one because I know the fanboys hate it, but he's recognized as an egomaniac. Cristiano Ronaldo is a man who knows he's good. But he takes us to our first tier of egomaniac. A man who knows he's good and still performs at that level. There's a difference between knowing you're good and being good. And when you're consistently at that level, when you're scoring some of the best goals in the world, when you're putting up some of the most ridiculous numbers we've ever seen across sport in general, let alone just football. Cristiano Ronaldo is a GOAT of sport. So we saw it when he first came to Manchester United. We saw the ego and brass going from 2006 onwards. 2003 onwards, he was a bit flashy, but we didn't really see the ego. 2006, he knew he was recognized as one of the greatest players in the world. 2008, we saw it peak in England. And he went across to Madrid, carried on scoring, carried on getting better and better and better. To even now, at 40 years old, I think his ego drives himself. He pushes himself further because he knows he can be better, unlike some of the other athletes that we'll discuss today. The next sport I want to talk about is boxing. Obviously, we know Muhammad Ali had a big ego. We know Muhammad Ali's ego helped him become better, but we've already discussed that archetype with Cristiano Ronaldo. So we're going to talk about Floyd Mayweather. Now, Floyd Mayweather's ego, for me, didn't help him get better. But Floyd Mayweather's ego showcased and made him earn more money, you know. We saw the money team. We saw Flash Money Mayweather. We saw Mayweather come in, mess around in his fights. We saw him take the biggest, flashiest paydays. We saw him fight Conor McGregor, who we'll talk about later on. We saw him do all of this at the peak of his powers. We saw him reach 50-0. There's no other boxer ever that has reached 50-0. To have 50 professional fights and not lose a single one is unheard of, and he's taken that and built his reputation off the fact of, I can say nobody can beat me and nobody will beat me.
Who got the highest gate?
Floyd Mayweather.
Who made the most money?
You did.
Who was the most accurate fighter of all time?
You were.
So it's basically saying that...
The greatest of all time.
Okay.
All right.
There's a difference in the fighting game where if you're able to talk, you can earn a lot more money. And Floyd Mayweather has mastered it. I don't know what his net worth is. I don't know how much he is worth. But this man knows how to rake in the cash. But then conversely, on the other side, we have Conor McGregor. Now, Conor McGregor is a fighter who was really, really good. We're not going to deny just how good that Conor, the notorious McGregor, was across his career. I mean, his career's not over. We're not talking about him like he's dead or nothing. But he's a prick. As his ego grows beyond what we even saw in 2016, 2017, 18. The double champ does what the he wants. As his ego grows bigger than that, we see him get worse and worse and worse. We saw him come into fights not looking in shape, properly in shape. Obviously, we know he's ripped, but not looking ready. Going into a fight against Khabib, not ready for the ground game. Going into fights where he just doesn't seem like he wants to be there, but he's there for the payday. He knows what his brand can make, and he's a good talker. He will get himself money. He's the biggest fight payday in all of the UFC, in all of MMA in general. He's the biggest fight payday. But as his ego grew, and his work rate for the sport declined because of his ego, he thought he was better than everybody else, so everybody else worked harder than he did. And so because of that, the seesaw tilted, and Conor McGregor just doesn't fight anymore. And when he does, nobody's going to be excited really the next time he fights, except to see him get knocked out, because he's done ridiculous things, he's done disgusting things, he's done absolutely abhorrent things. I'm not even going to go into the things he's done outside of the octagon, because he's an abhorrent human being, to be honest. When it comes to the fight game, he's gone worse and worse and worse ever since he became the double champ. Champ doesn't stay champ forever without hard work. Next, we're going to talk about another football player, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now, Zlatan.
Well, let's be nice. We don't have to go there.
thing with Zlatan is he is one of the greatest players we've seen play football, but he won't ever be in that upper echelon of greatest players we've ever seen play football. He's never won a Champions League, never won a Euros, never won a World Cup, and the sole reason he hasn't won a Champions League is ego. Left Inter Milan, they went to win a treble the season right after he left. Thought he was better than Pep Guardiola's system. They won everything. And by everything, I mean everything, because he thought he was better and bigger than Pep Guardiola's system. Pep Guardiola knew how to get a team winning, and Ibrahimovic didn't want to be part of that. Whereas other players, like Samuel Eto'o, were willing to sacrifice themselves to become the best and sacrifice what they think was their best attributes to win titles. Zlatan Ibrahimovic didn't do that, and so even for me, by my metrics, Samuel Eto'o is higher ranked for me than Zlatan Ibrahimovic, because Samuel Eto'o went out and he's won the Champions League. He's been the best player in a Champions League winning team. He's won the treble twice. He won back-to-back trebles in 2 different teams because he was willing to sacrifice what Ibrahimovic wasn't. I mean, Zlatan Ibrahimovic won everywhere he went, but he never went the place he had to go to prove he was the greatest of all time. Now for the NFL, Antonio Brown. I don't know how much of Antonio Brown comes down to CTE. I don't know if anyone's ever looked at his brain or done a scan of his brain and can tell me how much CTE contributes to his egomania. But this is a man who thought he was better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the best wide receiver in the world. He was the best catcher of the ball on the planet. But the issue is, if you think you're bigger than the team, no other team wants you. And when you go to the other teams, you're going to play a bit part. And when you go play a bit part, your career just derails and derails and derails. We see it a lot of the time across the NFL. I mean, you know what? Antonio Brown reminds me of Terrell Owens. But Terrell Owens was, I think there's a lot of derangement and a lot of medical issues when it comes to Antonio Brown. But my issue with Terrell Owens has always been, this man just thought he was better than everybody else. This is a Hall of Famer. He is a Hall of Famer. AB's probably a Hall of Famer too. But Terrell Owens had all of the characteristics and attributes to be one of the greatest NFL players ever, period. He's absolutely ridiculous. The stuff he could do was godlike. He had the talents of a god, but his personality took him more to hell. I mean, teams were willing to let go of him in his prime just to purely get the ego out of the door. He talks ridiculously about his quarterbacks. We saw him talk about Donovan McNabb. The Eagles had to let go of him. And it's a consistent thing where he has not got a Super Bowl because of his personality. He is not recognized as good as he should given his talents because purely of his personality. Egomania should be pushing you to be better, not pushing you to make your teammates worse. And I think that's the main difference between all of the rest of these egos and Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo will always be in that conversation for best of all time because despite his egomania, despite him thinking all the time he was better than everybody else, that just pushed him to prove he was better than everybody else. He didn't necessarily go around talking bad about his teammates. He didn't necessarily go around making enemies among the press, making enemies amongst the fans. He just knew he was better and proved he was better. But the one thing that can ruin a personality is when you think you're better, but you just aren't. And that comes down to my final case, another fighter, Mike Tyson. Now, Mike Tyson was a phenomenon. He had punching power of a bull. He could push through anything. He was a fighter from the very moment he was born. The size of and girth of his neck meant that knocking him out was tough. He was low down, short guy, so even when you're having to jab him, you had to jab lower, which tired you out. And he could pack a punch, like I said, the punch of a bull. Iron Mike Tyson. But in the 90s now, Mike Tyson managed to convince himself, and amongst the people around him, they convinced him that he was invincible. I mean, his ego was, he didn't really necessarily show it because he wasn't much of a talker, but you could see He would go into fights unprepared. I mean, he thought he was Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali being his idol, he believed he was on the level of a fighter like Muhammad Ali, but he just never was. He just wasn't. And Muhammad Ali would back up the fighting. Despite him having the ego, despite talking, he would back it up. But a fighter like Mike Tyson has to put in the work, because he isn't naturally doing the fundamentals. He isn't naturally doing the things he should be. He isn't naturally coming in lean, sharp at weight. He was built like a bison, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was in boxer's fit style. And that came down to his fight in Buster Douglas. One of the greatest upsets in the history of sport. We saw Buster Douglas beat a Mike Tyson in his prime. He was an undisciplined fighter. The predator we saw that was out there looking for blood was just undisciplined, who just didn't necessarily know how to come out with the win. We saw him against Evander Holyfield. First fight, terrified, bites an ear. Second fight, battered. I mean, there's nothing more we can talk about with Mike Tyson other than the fact that he has some of the greatest talents ever. He has some of the greatest title stretches ever. He was a great fighter. He's a legend of the game, 100%. But we can't talk about him when we talk about best fighters ever. We can talk about him when we talk about greatest icons. We can talk about him when we talk about greatest legacies. But best fighters ever, that's reserved to the Muhammad Alis of the world. And Mike Tyson just isn't there yet. So there's two sides to every single ego debate. There's the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Muhammad Alis, Floyd Mayweather, if you wills, that talk the crowd and back it up. And there's the other side, the Terrell Owens, the Antonio Browns, the Conor McGregors, who were just destructive to themselves. For me, I think I'm on Ronaldo's side. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you, man, in a bit. Boom.